If you find yourself constantly walking on eggshells around your partner because you're worried about stirring the pot, you're afraid of speaking up about something that's bothering you, or you just tend to be conflict averse and anxious about bringing up issues, listen up. In this video, we're going to cover 5 steps on how to stop walking on eggshells with your partner, start communicating more authentically and openly, and improve your relationship while you're at it. Now, quick disclaimer, this is not a video for how to handle a situation in which there is any sort of abuse going on. But assuming that you are in a normal, healthy relationship, the first step to stop walking on eggshells is to identify the long-term damage that this behavior is causing. It's really hard to change human behavior. We get a lot of momentum from doing the same things that we've done over and over again all our lives. So it's really hard to change our habits. You need to have a strong enough why, a compelling enough reason to overcome that momentum of doing the same thing that you always do and change your behavior. And so in order to do this, I want you to pause this video and imagine what would your life be like in the future if this problem didn't change. Imagine 2 years from now, imagine 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. Really close your eyes and think about, imagine all those seasons passing. You probably have a little bit more wrinkles, your hair's probably a little bit more gray, there's been 20 new iPhones that have been released. Imagine that far in the future. Really put yourself out into the future. What would your life be like if you kept walking on eggshells, if you kept bottling up your emotions, if you kept avoiding confrontation? What would your current relationship be like? Would your current relationship still be there? Would you be angry, bitter, resentful? Would you be cold towards each other? Or would you have left that relationship because it didn't work out, because you weren't getting your needs met, or this other person was tired of trying to guess what's in your head? And if you did break up, maybe you started dating again, but you kept repeating the same mistakes over and over again because you never addressed this insecurity you have about speaking up about what you need. Or maybe you gave up on relationships altogether because, nothing ended up working because this thing never got changed. Really get serious about what the damage is that can happen in the future if this doesn't change. This was a really defining moment for my relationship and my self-esteem and my sense of confidence a few years ago. I had been dating this guy for the last couple months and we went to a concert. And in my mind, I thought that we were going on a date. I thought it was gonna be a romantic thing. Well, I guess that wasn't communicated very well because when we got to the venue, it was a bunch of his friends. And so he spent a lot of time socializing with his friends. And I naturally, because I was so anxious and always wanting to be the cool girl and not wanting to be too needy, I kind of sucked it up. And I sucked it up and then, had a few drinks here and there. And eventually I sucked it up so much that I got so angry. I was like, oh my God, he still hasn't figured out that I need attention. I can't believe he's this is supposed to be a date and all these things. And I blew up at him. Pretty much at the venue. It was not pretty. And that's what I want. You know what? I'm done. I'm done acting this way. I'm done being this desperate person who is so worried about the other person liking me that I compromise what I need, that I'm afraid to speak up for what I need. I realize that if I keep behaving this way, if I keep bottling up my emotions, pretending I'm fine, pretending I'm one thing, but really feeling another way inside, I'm never gonna hang on to a healthy relationship. But that was a pretty pivotal moment for me, is just realizing, oh my God, if I don't change something about how I'm approaching this, then I'm screwing not only this relationship, but any relationship I might have in the future. So get serious with yourself and identify what is this behavior gonna cause if I don't address it right now. Now, the second step to stop walking on eggshells with your partner is to imagine what life would be like if you knew how to communicate in an open, honest, and constructive way with your partner. Now, before we move on, I'm not saying if you were an asshole to your partner. I think a lot of people who walk on eggshells with their partner or bottle up their emotions, they feel like they have 2 options. They're either completely quiet, they're silent, they're not saying anything about what's bothering them, or the floodgates are open and they're just going into an unfiltered rage about everything that's wrong in their relationship. I'm here to tell you that there's a nice middle ground between those. It's not a black and white thing. It's not either you have to bottle up your emotions or you open the floodgates about everything that's wrong. There's a sweet spot in the middle where you can be both speak up for what you need and courteous and constructive with your partner. So imagine what it would be like to find that sweet spot with your partner. How good would it feel if you could trust somebody enough to be open and honest with how you feel and have constructive communication with them? How much easier would it feel to not have to walk around bottling up your anxiety and the things that are bothering you? And how proud would you be to have built that kind of relationship with your partner? It's not enough to just think about what you're trying to avoid. You need to actually be able to imagine what you want to embody in the future, what kind of person that you want to become. Going back to that example I shared earlier of when I blew up at my now boyfriend at that concert a few years ago, I realized I was tired of feeling desperate and feeling like I can't speak up about what I need. But I also had to imagine, what kind of person do I want to be like? I want to get married one day. What kind of wife do I want to be like? I want to be somebody that my partner can be proud to be with. I want to be somebody that my partner can trust. I want to be somebody who feels confident enough and trust the relationship enough to speak up when something's bothering me and know that I'm going to be safe and secure to do so. So if I really felt safe in this relationship, how would I show up? What would I be doing differently? What would I be saying differently? How would I be holding myself? If you want to change your behavior, you gotta have a strong enough why in order to overcome all the momentum of how you've acted in the past. The third step is to identify how the thing that is bothering you is impacting your relationship as a whole. I know it can be really scary to bring things up, to bring up issues, to speak up about things that are bothering you because it feels selfish. It feels like you're being needy. It feels like you might be asking for too much. For me, it really helped when I was able to go, okay, here's the issue I'm experiencing, but what if I take a step back? How does it actually impact the relationship? How does it impact the other person? Because we're in a relationship together. We want this relationship to stay healthy, to stay positive, to enrich both of our lives. How does the issue that I'm experiencing impact our ability to do that? This really helps you move from a me versus you approach, which tends to not work out anyway because you're just being combative, to an us versus the problem kind of approach. And let me help you figure out how to do that. I want you to draw a table with 2 columns. On the left side, I want you to label it issues that affect me. And I want you to fill in 3 major issues that have been bothering you recently in your relationship and 3 minor issues, like maybe like some chores, like some nitpicky things that are just minor nuisances. And I want you to take those issues and go, okay, how do they impact our ability to have a good, positive, enriching relationship that'll last in the long run and be very healthy? I'll give a couple examples of this. A major issue might be you haven't been getting enough one-on-one time. You haven't been getting enough attention from your partner. That your partner is like on watching TV or on their phone or playing video games or whatever, and you just feel like you're not getting enough attention. They don't really care about your day, and it's getting really frustrating. You feel like you're being taken for granted. And the impact on the overall relationship might be you want the relationship to be fun and exciting for both of you. You want to both feel good in the relationship. You don't want to just be roommates or like cohabitating a space together. You want this to be something that we're both excited about. And if we're not getting enough time together, we're not quality time together. We're not giving enough ourselves a chance to really have that deeper connection that makes the relationship exciting and worth it. A minor issue might be that you've noticed that the trash is almost always full, but it never gets taken out, and you're always the person who needs to take it out. The issue that affects you is you have to clean up after somebody else, and you feel like it's not a fair division of labor. And the impact on the relationship might be, well, if you feel like you're always cleaning up after somebody in order to feel comfortable in your own home, you're probably going to become resentful towards that person. So the point of this exercise is to figure out, how is the issue that I'm experiencing as a person affecting the both of us? If our goal is to have a long, healthy, and strong relationship, how is the issue that I'm experiencing impacting that shared goal? The fourth step is to observe, not blame. Remember, you're not just unleashing your unfiltered wrath on this person. First of all, that's going to make it so that you never want to speak up if you're afraid that you're just going to be mean and angry and like an asshole the whole time. And secondly, it's not very effective. Read any communication book and it says right there, the first thing they say that if the person's defensive, if you insult them, if you blame them, they're not going to be receptive to changing. And the point here isn't to just stop walking on eggshells, it's to have constructive conversations with your partner so that you can improve the strength of your relationship. So a few things to keep in mind. To keep things as objective as you can. Don't assign blame, don't assume anything about what the other person's intentions are. Take a step back and really try to observe things as a third party. Be specific in what you observe. For the last 2 weeks, I've noticed that it's only been me taking out the trash because it's been full every time I get there. That's a lot more specific than you never clean up after yourself, right? That's a lot more manageable to be able to deal with. That's a problem you can solve. It's also important not to assume the intent of the other person. So if your partner is getting home and the first thing they do is clock out, watch TV or scroll on their phone, don't assume because they don't care about you. You can say how it makes you feel, but don't assume that you feel that way because the other person wants you to feel that way, because they're being malicious or because their intent is bad. What we're trying to do here is find that sweet spot between making sure the other person feels safe and not attacked, and also speaking up for what you need. I also recommend writing it out ahead of time. So if there's an issue that you would like to present to your partner, write out like, how am I gonna approach this? What am I not going to say? What am I not going to assume? What are the specific behaviors that I'm going to talk about, and what am I not going to extrapolate to? This really helps, especially if you want to like practice it in front of the mirror or something. And the fifth step to stop walking on eggshells with your partner is to stay on the same team. It can be really easy in the heat of the moment when, maybe somebody misunderstands you or they start getting defensive. It can be really easy to snap back to that me versus you mentality. As much as you can, whenever you catch yourself doing this, try to remember to go back to being on that us versus the problem approach. So remember, you're on the same team. You're trying to overcome an issue that's impacting the relationship. You're not trying to duke it out versus against each other. A really good way to do this is to focus on the things that you agree on and to emphasize and to celebrate when you do agree on things. If your partner says something and you're like, oh yeah, that's obvious, don't just brush it off or take it for granted. Verbally agree with them like, oh yes, you know what, I agree. We're on the same page there. The more that you can like highlight to your partner when you're on the same page, the more likely you are to like come back to that us versus the problem dynamic that's actually really helpful in overcoming issues. Anytime you have common ground, that's a reason to get excited, and that means that you're moving forward. Be ready for some pushback or some feedback from the other person as well. And give them space to be a little defensive maybe at first when they might be a little bit thrown off or surprised. Remember, you can't really move forward with a conversation if one or both of you is defensive. So the goal here is to make sure both people feel safe enough and feel not blamed enough so that they can be part of that constructive conversation and so that you can bring up the things that are bothering you so that you can overcome them. Now, if you find that you're always walking on eggshells, whether it's in your romantic life or with your friends or family or at work, and you're afraid to speak up for yourself, be sure to download my free guide on how to stop people pleasing. It contains 10 strategies for becoming more confident and communicating more authentically with the people in your life and at your work. And if you have any specific scenarios about walking on eggshells that you'd like help with, please let me know in the comments below. I hope you find this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.